In 1996, the world was introduced to an orange Bandicoot named Crash. After years of sequels, kart racers, and many others, some good and some bad, Crash Bandicoot 4: It's About Time hits our home consoles in 2020. Can this game capture the feeling of humor and the difficulty of the original games?
Crash! Crash!
Or is it time for Crash to retire his platforming shoes? Find out in our review. Crash Bandicoot 4: It's About Time picks up where the story left off. Cortex and Entropy are trapped in a prison in the past. Unfortunately, they're able to break out with the help of Uka Uka. The result is a rift in the very fabric of space and time, allowing Cortex and Entropy to escape. Having schemed up a new devilish plan, the two join forces with Dr. N. Jin and Dr. Embryo to build an army and take over the multiverse.
Once my rift generator is complete, dominion over all of time and space will be within our grasp.
That's where everyone's favorite Bandicoot comes in. Having sensed the disturbance in time, Aku Aku rushes Crash and Coco to the top of Insanity Peak, where they discover that Lani Loli, one of the 4 quantum masks with the power to control various aspects of time and space. Lani Loli joins them on their quest and thus begins a tromp through various time periods.
We have to go through, find my siblings, and fix this before some putz with a big evil plan and a bigger ego does something monumentally stupid.
The campaign itself is a joyous romp through a variety of levels, all which come with their very own unique challenges and encounters. The classic Crash Bandicoot formula is constantly in effect, though the addition of new masks does bring some fun powers for players to master.
So, we need the other masks to close the rifts?
Correct. Now my brother Akano is around here somewhere.
If you enjoyed the challenge and frustration of the original Crash series, then you're going to feel right at home in Crash Bandicoot 4, though that's something we'll talk about a bit more in a moment. As far as the story goes, Crash Bandicoot 4 does a great job of continuing the crazy Bandicoot's legacy. The cutscenes are absolutely gorgeous, and the performance from all the voice actors is commendable.
Right, yeah, fine, sure. Have fun with your ray guns or whatever.
Nothing ever feels off about the visuals or the narrative, and that's something I can definitely appreciate from a series so grounded in old school platformer mechanics. Of course, one of the most intriguing parts of the Crash Bandicoot formula has always been its difficulty, and It's About Time never disappoints. The levels are challenging and often frustrating, especially as you start using more of the quantum powers that you've unlocked. Having to learn to juggle and master the various powers can be difficult, and there are even certain points later in the campaign where you might find yourself racking up multiple deaths just to get through a puzzle sequence. Thankfully, the super frustrating bits are not too overwhelming. Though the ending levels will be the most difficult you come across throughout the game, everything feels right at home in the formula, and there are even plenty of iconic run away from X thing areas in the game too. Like the original, these force you to act quickly as you move away from some type of enemy. And while I did find myself struggling on a few iffy jumps, for the most part, it was easy enough to get through. The most difficult part, though, comes at the end. During some of the last levels, you are forced to move through puzzle areas that require you to quickly adapt and change from one power to the next, which is done by picking up different types of masks. There are 4 powers to work through, one that allows you to swap dimensional items, phasing different things in and out. Another power allows you to flip gravity. The new powers do really well throughout the majority of the game, but the final levels that force you to constantly swap between them could prove overly frustrating for players who aren't exceptionally skilled at platformers. If you love the Crash Bandicoot series though, you're probably going to fare well enough throughout most of the challenges. I should preface this next portion of the review by saying that I went into Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time, fully expecting to fall in love with it. Everything about the game's reveal, from the surprise debut in June to the promotional materials leading up to it, felt good, and I was excited to see what the series had to offer in its latest incarnation. What I wasn't expecting though was to fall quite as hard as I did. Despite the frustrations that I might have run into, Crash Bandicoot 4 feels like everything you could ever want in a new Crash game. It builds off the old school mechanics, adding new features and abilities. On top of that, players will have the opportunity to play as 4 other characters, including Crash's ex-girlfriend Tana, Dingodile, Coco, and Cortex himself. The additional levels for Tana, Dingo, and Cortex add even more weight to the narrative, and mostly run alongside the main levels that feature Crash and Coco. While they come off as optional, I'd highly recommend anyone playing through the game take the time to play these levels as you unlock them, as they offer a nice additional perspective of the campaign's events.
Sorry, I fly solo. But I'll lend a hand where I can. In fact, I already have.
Playing as different characters also grants you some new mechanics to use as well. Instead of double jumping, Dingodile uses a large vacuum-like device to traverse gaps. This allows him to glide for a few seconds before being shot upward by a puff of air. Tana, who is one of the most enjoyable characters to play as, comes with a new grappling hook-like item. This allows you to shoot onto various walls and break boxes that are far away, granting new means of traversing the levels that you come across. And finally, Coco, who is still a mix of the same mechanics and abilities that Crash has to offer. Everything about Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time feels perfect. Yeah, the game can be frustrating, and there are a few hiccups here and there, but for the most part, the formula is still solid. The addition of new mechanics helps bring the old school design forward, and the overall design of the game, from the levels to the characters and beyond, is splendid. It will only take you around 10 hours or so to play through most of the main content, including many of the side levels unlocked for each character. So there's no real long commitment unless you're going for 100% completion. Of course, the 10-hour estimate doesn't include the optional content like the flashback tapes, inverted mode levels, and collecting all the crates, gems, and other items found throughout the storyline.
Huh. So, what you collecting? Crystals? Gems?
Masks.
Ooh, fun. Well, good luck with that.
Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time was a big surprise when it was announced back in June of this year. Through all the trials and tribulations that 2020 has seen, seeing a game that has such a deep and rooted history come back was both refreshing and inspiring. Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time. It's a surprise classic that's sure to delight old fans of the franchise and even make some new ones along the way. For more video reviews and everything else gaming related, you're already in the right place. You're on Shacknews.com.